This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
The plane was coming in. I noticed it a second before it hit the building. It looked like it was moving slowly, and it lined itself up to hit the building directly.
The doorman goes to me, wow, I've never seen a plane flying so low. And we looked out at it, and all of a sudden, boom, it seemed like it wasn't even real.
I say the whole takes about, looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more exploding right now. Hold on, people are running.
Hold on just a moment. We got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
It just...
Good morning. We can't forget those images, can we? No matter how hard we try. I don't think we're supposed to. That was 15 years ago today. I remember that day very clearly. That morning, my daughter woke me up, for I had the day off, as I went to a season-opening New York Giants-Denver Broncos game in Denver, Colorado on September 10th, 2001. My soon-to-be 11-year-old daughter woke me up that morning and said, "Hey, Dad, you need to get up, and a plane has hit one of the World Trade Centers in New York, and I don't know what to think of it." Neither did I. I was half awake. My wife, her mom, had already gone to work. I had had some beer the night before, so my head was pounding. That's why I had the day off. A few minutes later, she says, "Hey, Dad, can you get up? You might want to come down and watch the TV with me." So I thought she was just watching a commercial for some crazy shock film, because that's the kind of entertainment we need these days to get our attention. Well, I get up, I come downstairs, and I start brewing some coffee, and I see the TV's on in the living room, and my daughter's glued to it, and I'm seeing smoke coming from the North Tower. I walk into the living room, I put my hand on top of my daughter's head and go, "What are we watching?" She again tells me what's happening. And just a few seconds later, the South Tower gets hit. Every one of us who has a cognitive memory of that day was affected by what happened on September 11th, 2001. It doesn't escape any of us. None of us are null and void of what happened. Some of us, of course, were more greatly affected than others. I, of course, started calling all of my people, my brother, his then first wife, live in Long Island, New York. My parents, who are now deceased, at the time were living in Fairfax, Virginia, which is near Arlington, where the Pentagon was hit. I couldn't reach anybody. It was the first time in my life that every number I dialed, I got a fast, busy signal. Because apparently the phone lines were being just overwrought with callers of people wanting to find the status of what was going on and how their loved ones were. Well, that's the prudent thing to do when tragedy strikes. Account for yourself and the ones that you love and care about. What gets me is, in our day-to-day life, we don't do that. Or if we do, it's not maybe as much as we should. And I'm not thinking we should be panicked, and call up your loved ones every few hours or every day. How are you? How are you? That would get a bit redundant. But when the dust settled from that day, my then soon-to-be 11-year-old daughter, who was in 6th grade, said to me, "Dad, we just really have to take the time and remind each other every day how much we love one another. Because tomorrow is not a given. It's not guaranteed. Anything could happen at any time. How profound. A lot of tragedies happened when I was raising my daughter in 1999. My wife and I were raising her in Colorado. And of course, was the Columbine incident, Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado in April of 1999. That seemed to be kind of the kickoff to what we see all the time now. Just youth lashing out at the world, senseless tragedies, taking of innocent lives. But what happened on September 11th was a horrible tragedy. But I think the bigger tragedy is that it's going to happen again. Not saying to New York or to Washington, D.C., or to any specific city. It's we're not learning from our mistakes. You know, what happened on 9/11 is our generation's Kennedy assassination, November 22nd, 1963, for those who were old enough to remember that. Where were you when that happened? Well, we haven't had a president assassinated in nearly 53 years. We've had some shot at and wounded. What's past is prologue. That's a good phrase. What happens in the past is going to happen in the future because we don't learn from the past. It's kind of like what goes around comes around. I don't ever want to see another tragedy like 9/11 again. And I'm sure you don't. I don't want to see and hear about any more nightclubs, shopping malls, churches, schools being shot up by angry, misdirected, angered teenagers or early 20-somethings who feel that they have nothing to live for. So they're just going to get their 15 minutes of fame. Tragedy happens. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, it's a part of life. But the wanton, the senseless, the premeditated, those are the things that really disturb me. If we took every incident that happens, that we hear about, we would be having memorials every day of the year. Don't think for 1 second I'm discounting what happened on that day. Not at all. My thinking and my concentration is how can we make this world a better place to where these types of things don't happen? And it doesn't matter who we feel was responsible for that day. We all have our feelings. We all have our theories. But what happened, happened. That can't be disputed. But what can we do as a people, as a collective, to ensure this kind of business doesn't happen again and again and again? I have some answers. Others do. But what are we willing to do as a people? We find ourselves in an election year. And in the next couple of months, we're going to find out who our next president is. Am I excited about it? Not at all. Because I don't think the best people are running. The best people are smart. They don't run. But we are facing a new administration soon. And to say uncertainty, uncertainty doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of where we're going to go. There's so much to think about in these times. And I try not to overthink these things. I don't like being reminded about these things. But It's part of the grieving process. But I would rather take the energy to try to find solutions than to grieve about things that I cannot change. I spent a couple years in the early 90s on the Kennedy assassination that I spoke of earlier. And I spent some time down in Texas and in Louisiana. And I met some aged people who I know matter-of-factly were there in Dealey Plaza or the ticket taker in the Texas Theater. Met a lot of people, seen a lot of places. Was that time well spent? Well, maybe, maybe not. But I wanted to get some answers. I wanted to have some understanding of what really happened. And I'll never know exactly what happened, but I think I have a pretty good grip on what it was all about, who was behind it, you know. And it was just, it boiled down to, we were having a change of power, a power shift in this country. And when those types of things happen, you know, everybody is affected in one way or another. Just like 9/11, just like senseless tragedies of shooting innocent people in random acts of violence. I wish I could wave a magic wand if I had one and make this all go away. You know, just boom. And those lives wouldn't be that were lost wouldn't be in vain if we as a people could find a better way to deal with our anger and the things that we want to change and need to change, but not forcing the issue by violence. You know, my heroes growing up were John Lennon, John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, people that I really looked up to. And of course, they all met a horrible end. And then we sit back and we bitch about, wow, man, what would the world have been like had this or this happened or this person had lived and all that? Well, we need to stop killing people. Because when we kill others, we're killing a part of ourselves. No one wins. Today is the first week of the NFL season. I'm going to enjoy today. I'm not going to sit around and harp on things that I can't change. But I wanted to make a video today to say a few things from my heart. I don't want these things to happen anymore. And I live my life in a way that I bring good to the community. And I don't give a fuck how people see it. It's obvious what kind of person I am. The question is, what kind of person are you? Take some time to think about what you are doing with your life. Are you an asset or are you a liability? Are you bringing something to the table or are you constantly taking? Those are the things we need to be thinking about, not spending all our time memorializing all these heinous tragedies that we can't change. We need to worry about now. Because if we worry about now, less and less of these types of tragedies will occur in the future because we're learning from what has happened. And we're making changes. And I mean changes across the board. It's a tragedy when good people cannot get work. It's a tragedy when people lose their homes and wind up sleeping in makeshift shelters or tents on the edge of town. There's so many things we need to be worried about. And we cannot sit around worrying about what once happened. Like I said, if we took half that energy trying to change the unchangeable to what we can change about ourselves in the future, I wouldn't be sitting right now in front of this camera spouting off what I'm spouting off. Let's do this. Let's take every day to smile at somebody, to say hello, to say, how are you? Let's listen to good music. Let's stop watching these bullshit television and bullshit movies that Hollywood feeds us. Find the good stuff. You know how, like, when you go to an estate sale or a garage sale, you're always rooting around for the good stuff, but there's just so much junk milling about? Well, that is the fucking society we live in today. Look for the good stuff within yourself, because it's there, and you're not going to have to root very hard for it. Find the good things in you and bring those out. Be patient. Think about the other person. Don't put up with a lot of bullshit now. Don't let people walk all over you. But think about the big picture. Treat those the way you want to be treated. Get all this negative garbage out of your life, whatever it is. And that'll free up your heart and your mind and your soul to be a better human being. Now, again, we cannot stop other people's wrongdoings, but we can stop our wrongdoings and our wrong thinking and our wrong attitudes. Thank you for letting me share. Please be good to one another. Somebody loves you. Good day to all.